Okay, let's go. It's a video for the new Softears Volume S. This is a 2 dynamic driver, 2 balanced armature set, and it is $320. If you're a subscriber to my channel, go ahead and comment below. Give the video a thumbs up. You can literally stop right now and thumb it up, and I will be here when you come back. Helps with the engagement. Thank you very much. And do the same on the unboxing that I've already done for this set, and I will send it to somebody I will pay anywhere around the world if I pick you. You don't have to subscribe, but I'm going to pick a subscriber that's subscribed to both my channels because that's what I do. It's kind of an appreciation thing. And Softears sent this for free. I'll send it out to you for free. And it is a very good set, so I'll tip my hat right there. It's a really good set, which makes me ask questions about the driver stuff, like why not promote this more, because it's quite good. This is the frequency response graph. The upper mids and treble you can see is like literally my target. It's my target. This is adjusted and compensated to be more like Critical's mic. The difference between my mic and his, the compensation is this target, and it's my upper mids and treble. The low frequency is not quite what I usually prefer or what my target is. If you really like a substantial low end, I think the Xenns Tea PRO would probably be something. If you have that set and you think this is too meaty for me, this would be something you would probably consider, because it is quite good. It's one of the better ones in its price range, and it's competitive with the Xenns Tea PRO. Though again, because of my library, I would say I would probably go with that one. But let me explain with more detail, because you might find yourself more drawn to this right here. In the low end, Big Boy Killjoy, the 808 drops, the Roland, Public Enemy, Ghetto Boys, Wu-Tang, Tupac, Kendrick Lamar. This isn't a set that's really built for that part of my library. It's okay, but it doesn't have that energy at 45, 55, 65. Boosted up, give me that slams from the 808 or the deck mix drops. It sounds fine, but it's not really built for that. The graph indicates that, so you should expect. I'm not doing any opinions about the other adjustment on this that brings up the upper mids, which is the impedance adjustment, because I'm not a fan of that. So let's just skip right over that. I really like this, so I'll talk about this and let other people talk about the duality of the set. I'm not a fan of the other tuning. I like this tuning. So the 808 Roland, not really. The 4 and 5 string bass guitars, the pulls, the plucks, the ringing of the string, I think it actually sounds quite good. Sultans of Swing, it wasn't quite there, but it sounded very clean, and this is using a unique kind of dynamic driver with a stacked other 6mm on the diaphragm, so it's kind of, could it be gimmicky? That actually sounds pretty good. As we get to Bonham's kick drum, which is always very similar to the 808s, because if one's doing good, it's likely the other's going to do good, because it needs that energy in some of the same areas. The kick drum by Bonham sounds okay. It's not quite as emphatic as I would like. So the 808s are a little too polite. The bass guitar sounds excellent, and the kick drum, bass drum sounds, again, if the Xenns Tea PRO is your thing, this would be too polite. If you find that to be a little too energetic, this would be probably perfect for you. As we get into vocals, which is really the mids, now I'll tell you, there was just a very massive earthquake, or very large earthquake. I did a previous version of this, and I thought I was falling down. I thought I was catching the flu, and I turned my camera off, and I realized that there was an earthquake going on. It wasn't me stumbling and almost falling down because I have the flu. There was an earthquake, so that might be what is going on right there. Somebody might have got hurt. Japan's wild. We just need dinosaurs. We got volcanoes, we've got earthquakes, we've got everything. We just don't have dinosaurs. It's crazy. Japan has lots of earthquakes. Getting back, and we're talking about the low end, which is interesting. The vocals, I think, sound great. They sound really good, actually. It's not the high point of the set, which is interesting. Chris Cornell, Lane Staley, Nina doing the cover of Blondie, I thought they all sounded good. I listened to Neil Young and Ozzy Osbourne, because they got a kind of nasally tinge to it that shows itself in the ear gain region and a little bit beyond, and I thought those both sounded actually really good. So vocals sound good. The sub bass and mid bass, the amplitude is roughly the same, so you're gonna hear more. It was a pretty big earthquake, or it was close to where I'm sitting anyway. I think some walls might have fallen down. I'm just gonna keep recording. as we get into the harmonics and overtones, which is the fundamental moment creates sound. My knuckle hitting the desk, split second. That sound was about a second though. Probably a third of that was my knuckle striking, and the other 2/3 of that are the sound that was created by it, which would be the harmonics and overtones. This is the set's best part. Stick striking, rides or crashes, fingers pulling on bass guitar strings, picks on acoustic or an electric, or finger plucking. It all sounds excellent. I listened to Helplessly Hoping by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, and I'm not sure how they're playing that, but I think there's 3 people on acoustics, and it just sounded brilliant. I thought it sounded really, really good. So this set shines there. Let me go ahead and rank this. Is it a dumpster fire? No. Hope it was free for somebody in the comments below this video. It's going to be. Coping is working. No, the cable failed on this one, and that annoyed me, but I'm not coping. I just didn't bring it up at the opening of the video because I thought that would seem too negative, but it happened. So coping a little bit. Competes with its peers. Its peers are the Xenns Tea PRO for me, and it does in all ways except the low end. So again, it's a taste thing. If you have a library or you like more bass. Personally, the Xenns Tea PRO is my benchmark, and this is falling a little short in the low end, but otherwise it's hitting all the marks. So it does compete with its peers. I'd buy it. I wouldn't have, going by the advertisement and the graph. Having heard it, I would. So if I had paid for this $320, received it, listened to it, I wouldn't feel like I got gypped or I should have made another choice. I think it's worth the money that they're asking for it. Now let me get into the driver stuff real quick. Because this sounds so good, and because the upper mids and treble harmonics, which is all BAs, I'm pretty much sure, that indicates that these drivers are probably similar to the RSV drivers, which means that the company, and I'll put this picture up that they sent me a mail, and they're speaking about it like they said they're being very transparent, but most of the people in my community don't know, and when I asked my community, they didn't. I think Michael Bruce maybe commented, and somebody else commented about it, but that's because they know when they ask people. But if you scroll around here, you don't see it. And the problem with that is that if you started to number and name these ED series or EX for a sub, so the RSV has BAs in the low end, and I thought it did the low end great. But this has dynamic drivers, so there's maybe a different series that are in the low end, but I wouldn't know what those are easily because they don't really share that. So I think it would be better for the consumer to say, oh, I know those drivers, that was in another set, or vice versa. I don't like that. It becomes familiar. They start to learn and know about it, like that Sonian series or that Knowles series or that, I forget the name of the company, but you'll see it when you see the mail. It's beneficial for the buyer and then also for you as the seller, Softears, because you start to build up this brand that's kind of in-house, as you say, and people like it. I've spoken highly of the RSV and of this set right in front of me, so I'm speaking up for the BAs actually, because I'm saying that this sounds good, which means that the drivers inside that nice looking shell sound good, which is what this is all about. I think there's more profit for you in the future to be more transparent with the drivers and what the number of that one is and what the number of the BA one is, and then when you use them again in another set or you use newer ones, etc., like what Sony and Knowles do. I think it's a more profitable way of doing it, and it's going to be done someday. Why not start with the next set that you release? And when you are describing it over here, some of the stuff that is on Shenzhen, and they have Knowles and Sony, and I believe over here they talk about it, and they'll say the Sony and whatever series or the Knowles, and you just do the same with yours. I think you should, because they're good. So this is me trying to push you guys and say, you got something good here. You ought to talk about it a little more, and reap the just benefits from it. You did a good job. There's a lot of garbage balanced armatures out there, and they're called custom BAs for a reason. These really should get identified more clearly. That's it. You guys have a great one. I'm going to go make sure other stuff didn't fall off my walls because of the earthquake. And go ahead and comment below. Give the video a thumbs up. Be a subscriber, and you might get the Volume S. It's a really good set. And again, you can adjust the upper mids to have more upper mids. Yeah, no. I love this just the way it is right here. And I am out. Okay, good morning. Let's go. I have to unfortunately do a slight addendum to this and change my overall ranking. This is a 10mm dynamic driver on my fingertip. Sorry for the dark, but I'm not turning on the light. This is just a quick update. The video that I did, let me just go ahead and confirm for you. This is already up, downloaded. It's a 1.53 gigabyte file, but I'm going to have to change it. This is 1DD 10mm, which is what you would see if you opened up the Softears, because this is essentially what's in it. This is not a 2 dynamic driver set. This is a 2-inch actual subwoofer that works in its box. And I'm going to explain something real quick, and I'll use the internet to help me and help you understand. A passive radiator is a speaker component that increases the bass output of a speaker system without using an electrical input. It's passive. Passive radiators are powered. How do they get their power? By what they do, by the air pressure created by the speaker's cones. Now they're talking about the active driver. This driver, which is connected when it goes in and out, is changing the volume of air. It's sucking air or blowing it out, and that makes the passive radiator, which would usually be separate in another position, go in or out, and it would be going in the opposite direction of the active driver. So that's a passive radiator, and its actions depend on the displacement, the changing of the air created by the active driver. That is what a passive radiator is. Let's Sure did a bad job because they were feeding it all of the frequencies instead of low frequencies, which is what this is really designed for. Now, let me go ahead and put that down. So they're advertising it as 2DD. It's not 2D. And if you scroll down just a little bit more, and then I'll let you guys go. I believe it's down here. And here we go. This is essentially, so you see the outer part of this driver, that's called the surround, which is a suspension system which allows this driver to extend out the excursion and to retract. It's sitting on this suspension system. That's how it moves in and out. What they have done is they're putting like a different cap on what you see is the little bubble in the middle. That is really the dust cap. What Let's Sure is doing is playing with that, but they're playing with an existing active driver. It's not that this isn't passive radiator. It's not a separate driver because it doesn't have any of the motor structure, any of it. Spider, the surround, the voice coil, it doesn't have any of what you see here. It actually does have its own little surround right there, but it doesn't have any of what you see behind the baffle here. But that's typical for passive radiators. They're just this part. But this is mounted to an active driver, so it's a part of the active driver. And it doesn't really make sense when you look at it closely. I've been in audio for a very long time. This is kind of gimmicky with the explanation, so I'm going to take this from a I'd buy it to coping as working, because I had the issue with the cable, which I kind of let go, and then the BAs is a personal thing, so I'm not going to ding for that, and also it sounds good. So my opinions about the sound quality of this don't change at all, but this isn't a 2 dynamic driver set. It's a single dynamic driver, and it's not a passive radiator. There's not a separate second driver in any kind of a way, because if you're saying if it's a passive radiator, it's got to be passive, and we can't redefine stuff on the fly here, which is happening a lot in this hobby. This is mounted to the cap of the active driver. It moves an excursion in the outward. Remember, hertz is an extension, retraction, return to stationary. 3 steps, 55 of those in a second is 55 hertz. When this is doing something, that other cap modification is doing the same thing. This is a modified single driver. It's not 2 DDs at all. Slightly disappointing. Please don't come in and argue about it doesn't matter to me, it's all about sound quality. Most of the people that watch my channel make purchases based on my opinion. It does matter. The stuff that they say, the verbiage and the adjectives, and you can play around with that because that's advertising, but when you start saying that something is like a legit 2 driver set, but it's going to be opened up by people and looked at, and it's going to be this, really? That's a single dynamic driver set that's modified in a way that you think might be improving the performance of that single driver, but that is not 2 dynamic drivers. And I had 2 coffees, so I'm not like morning angry. This is just look closely and like, what? No, I'm not. Nope. go ahead and argue with me down in the comments. As long as you don't use foul language, I'll allow it, because I'll push back. I'd like to eliminate this kind of stuff. This is almost, this is actually false advertising. If Linsol did this, I would talk to them privately, directly, and say, if that video goes up, I'm going to talk about it. And so they don't send me stuff. Look at the stuff listed on Linsol, and look what I don't have the Valhalla. There's a lot of stuff they've got that I don't get, because they don't have any idea what I'm going to say. 10 years in, and they don't know what I'm going to say. Very, very proud of that. Softears, I appreciate you taking the jump, and you made a good set, and it sounds really good, but this extra stuff, I'm not cool with it. And this is not a 2DD set. It doesn't meet that. It doesn't meet that standard in any kind of a way. It's not even a passive radiator, because it's not passive. It's an extension of the active. Yeah, no. Coping is working. New ranking, and I'm out.